Good morning. Good morning. This is Spirit Journey, November 26, 2019. And the time is about 4:29 a.m. I've been up for maybe 15 minutes. And I feel things are getting very intense, socially, personally, very intense. I feel like the next 12, 13 months is going to be a doozy. Personally, my personal life, and in the political life. I'm going to talk about the politics that's happening now. This is the first time, really. Well, the last presidential election was the first time in my history that I started following it all over the internet. Prior to this, I was not a follower. Yeah, when Obama got in the office the first time, I still wasn't all that into the internet. I mean, I utilized it, but I was still very old school. I just used social media, for entertainment purposes. And I'm really referring to YouTube. And back then I did listen to the radio. And that's when I first heard of Obama. That's the first time. I really didn't take anything seriously. But I see now that everything is introduced to the public in stages and with purpose. The introduction to Obama was the script of a regular guy. But as we see, he was never a regular guy. And everything about him is cloaked in secrecy, but they have their cover story. There's something much, 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 much more about him. But anyway, 2019, there's more to the story now about politics and elections. What is it all about? We have a president in office now. And the first time in my history or memory or understanding that we had a president like the current one that we have. And it's such energy behind this administration and surrounding it. Even though he won the election, was it 2.5 years ago? it's still very anti-establishment, administration, I should say. They want him out with such vehemency. This election, I perceive, I mean, all elections have its politics behind it, but this one, I think, more is at stake. More players, more top officials, the secret government, and they're playing hardball. I hate politics, but I can't help but notice the different people are coming out of the woodworks. I saw a couple of weeks ago, was it, of the different candidates. I think I'm not sure whether they're all Republicans or Democrats or a mixture of the two. But a whole slew of candidates. And no one knows their history, what makes them tick, you know? And I never paid attention anyhow, and I never knew about any candidates. It was just same old routine, like I would say 20 years and back. Everything was old school. No one knew anybody. And just somehow someone becomes president. But now, it just seems like really a lot of new people, the feel of a new people vying for new positions, potential positions of leadership. And just because they don't have the same amount of clout as someone doesn't mean that they don't know how to run institutions. See, all the prior people in office, it was still, in my opinion, just continuing the same old, same old. Same old school. The faces may change, but the politics and the continuity of the government. And it's a continuity that is meant to continue along its evolutionary path, if I could say that. But now, either that the how do you say, that it can turn either direction in its stream. It could continue along the path, or something else interrupt, or just the greed and the feverishness for people to have the honor of pressing that final button. That final button of America. What will America become? So now they're using different flavors as it pertains to people of different nationals than the usual. So that you have an East Asian man being considered. And now, I heard, I think it was yesterday or the day before yesterday, Michael Bloomberg officially is going to run for the next presidency in America, United States of America. He's been in New York politics for quite a while. Was it for about 12 years or so? I forget. He's a smooth man, very sophisticated. But the system with him in New York is the same. It's the same slave driver. I know that's a strong word. He wears beautiful suits. He's quiet spoken. He does have a daughter. So he was married, yes. I'm not sure if they had divorced or they're separated, but it's really no connection between the wife and him in politics. No real connection. And I think it was just a front. Like, I've never met the man. He looks good. I mean, he presents himself very well. But he seems too quiet for me. And I was told that he is the 11th richest man on the planet. He is a billionaire. That's with a B as in boy. A billionaire. $50+ billion. Wow. So yes, he's richer than Trump. And he has the funds to run for office. But just because you have the money to do something doesn't mean that you should run the country. I think he's running for office for this desperation. Like, I believe there's a system. People who are in positions and individuals only supposed to go so far. And I think with the current presidency, people definitely want him out at any cost. And that's why now Bloomberg is jumping into the picture. My question is, who is instructing him to run for office? It's like all these, I call them little ghosts, little gremlins. And they're positioned in different spots. And so if someone is coming up the path that isn't authorized, or they just don't want that person in the stream of things, running the show, they place their other agents, ghosts, gremlins, they activate them to do things, in this case, running for election. So this is going high up because, see, he is a billionaire. Michael Bloomberg and Trump. And so that tenacity is saying, hey, he's getting too far ahead, almost like a free radical, and he wasn't supposed to get this far. These are desperate times I see in politics. And I think that the next person who becomes president of the United States of America is going to be a very key point in time. I mean, every point in time is important, but this one is a key factor that will affect masses and the future as we know it. And I believe the current presidency is trying to set up before this season is over for him. He's trying to put things in place. And one of those things in place is the what they call the Space Force. Remember last year he made mention about the Space Force, the sixth branch of the military. It's a race for space, and people are vying for power to be able to openly express and experience full disclosure and all what it means with this full disclosure. Full disclosure means that it's going to be out in the open about the different technologies that could go to different planets, star systems, everything. And they're vying for this power seat. But since the current presidency, he's in office, he may have some privy to the information. But they don't want him to be in the driver's seat. I have two thoughts about that. Like, part of me is feeling that he is where he is designated to be. But at the same time, another faction doesn't want him to play the script. It's like they want to change the script on him. And they put in different distractants in the pot to possibly obscure what's being done now in his administration, or to obscure who wants to try to get into power in office right now. I mean, or it could be both. Something is going on, and so it's really hard for me to really know. He's in because he won and someone backed him. It's not just him alone. Or is this everything that you see just a game? And everybody's playing their parts? And they want you to think certain things about certain candidates or who's in office, who's in the current administration. But they're all on the same side. All of them, but they want you to think that they're separate. So Republicans with Republicans and Democrats with Democrats. But you know, it doesn't matter what they are. I think that's just a distractant to make you think, because either way they're going to pull their card. They're gonna show the Trump card or whatever, and no pun intended. They already know how they're going to play the card, possibly. So whether you go red or blue, it doesn't matter. But now they want, Michael Bloomberg. And what I think about that, I'm a little troubled. I mean, he's been in New York politics for many years. I don't recall any real controversy with him. But I feel, as it pertains to Black people specifically, that he's not your friend, and he's never been our friend. New York City is very delicate right now, and the Blacks that live in it is at a very fragile state. And then all of a sudden, I heard him say recently that some type of apology. I think it was with the stop and frisk, that it was practiced under his administration. And so now he wants to be the friend of Black people. Don't fall for it, people. Okay? He's about his own institution. He upheld the institution that is very oppressive to Blacks. And so I think he's going to try to use his money to manipulate you, people, Black people. He has over $1 billion to play with. His own money. He owns a lot of, strong businesses, news. So he controls news. Yeah, he has the Bloomberg report. So I think he's going to try to butter up the Black community with false promises. Now, why is it again and again? See, in my opinion, the influence that Blacks have in New York City is shrinking. And I mean influence of numbers of people. Our numbers, I think, is shrinking. You have now the larger ethnic group are Hispanics. So why is he focusing on to apologize in some form to Black people when we're not the largest ethnic group, but Hispanics are? Why isn't in American politics, whether they pull out the Black card and the pandering of Black people for everything, and then after everything's said and done, after elections, you see more Black people living on the street, more targeting upon us? So I'm irritated. I don't want to hear an apology, because talk is cheap. I'm also reminded with this current politics with a movie that I just watched yesterday evening called WIDOWS. It was the first time I saw it. Very intense at times. And what was that movie really about? I only watched it once, but I know I want to watch it again, because I believe that movie came out last year, 2018. It's 2019 now. So I feel that the movie is relative to what's happening now. You have various women in that movie that represent different ethnic groups. The lead character was a Black woman, Black American woman, And then you have a white Russian, excuse me, not Russian, Polish person. But I think she still symbolizes the Eastern European, Slavic / Russian group, you know? So that's just a cover story, but she represents Russia, I believe. But they don't want to be too obvious. And then you have a Hispanic woman. She's of Caribbean descent. She's the Dominican and Puerto Rican mix. And in New York City, those are the largest ethnic group, Hispanic group, Puerto Ricans and Dominicans. But I think actually, island-wise, Dominicans in New York City is actually the largest ethnic group to Puerto Ricans, and the largest in New York City overall. So I think that's what she represents, the current demographics of New York. And then you have like she could be West Indian woman, and that character came in a little later on in the movie. But each of those women did not know, or may not have known extensively, or just in part, that their spouses were involved in illicit activity, and it's also in a district that is under a power play. Is the movie, the characters that were controlling the district was Irish Americans. And then you have the newer school Irish American that wants to end the old system, but the old system has all the power control. And then you have, because they call it a ward, and in this ward or district, it's populated, as I say, minorities. It's a lot of poverty. But nearby at the boundary is an affluent neighborhood. And they showed in the movie the white politician that wants to run for office. And his father is that old school Irish American. And of course, they used the N-word, the old school. They didn't need to do that, but they did in the movie. And so it's a power play. And you have people that run the life of the poorer section of the ward. And the central headquarters, guess what? The Black Church. Yep. And so they all seem to somehow know each other. You have, I guess, a gang, a black gang, and they're visiting the church, the minister, and they were doing deals. And they're vying for power and who's going to vote for who. It was like a behind the scenes. A behind the scene. The movie, it was very detailed, and I definitely have to watch it more than once to really comment about it. But I feel that the movie is relevant as to what's happening now in American politics. See, this town in the movie, Widow, or The Widow, is very key what's happening to the nation as a whole, rather than just a ward, just say a country. And so the politics and people were getting killed and money had been stolen, and you learned that, I guess you call it the Black Mafia, had gotten ripped off, or their money, like their hands what it looked like was happening, that the whites Irish community wanted to still control the now predominantly black neighborhood. And there might have been some gerrymandering. But the Irish want to control. But you have this black mafia or organized crime. And what they were doing, you had people who were wanting to start businesses. They wanted to get their, American dream. But the banks won't won't loan to them. So the blacks there, one of the women, the West Indian looking woman, wants to open up a beauty shop. And when you go in a black neighborhood, what do you see? A lot of beauty shops and a lot of churches. And you, the little sheep, the little black sheep, they're sucking your money out. So yes, the lady, she couldn't get the loan through a bank. So someone loaned her money, and now she's in forever debt. So every time this salon makes money, these people come by and they collect their cut. And this was a white person. I think this was the Irish. But see, you have the black mafia that's at least visited the church to talk to the black pastor, trying to come to some deal and to find out whether they're going to support them in the election. And he says, hey, I want, that Irish guy. I was raised under him. Not physically, not like in his household, but his influence. He was always under his influence, his politics. And I guess if it's not broken, don't fix it. But he's willing to examine this new black fellow that wants to come into office. But the church is there. That's their meeting hub. And yes, they showed scenes of them in church and a sermon, and they're quite charismatic. But don't be fooled. You see, what I'm seeing with movies like this, it's always showing you that black people have untapped energy / power, but they don't want you to drink out of your own well. They want you to drink out of the well of the Irish, of anybody who's coming into office. And so now in New York politics now, they want you to now drink the nectar of another ethnic group. They will be pandering you for votes. He's going to pretend to be your friend. He may even give a public apology again about the stop and frisk and other things. So what I'm learning about with the movie Widow or The Widow and the actual politics right now in New York City and America, that black Americans will be the pandered group. People will be coming into your communities and wanting your support. And you give it. And you give it without question. You gave it to Obama. And he is nowhere to be found helping the black community. It showed me you have so much power behind you. But you're being bewitched. You're acting like a child that doesn't know better, that is playing naivety. and you want to be adopted out by any family, and then they hide you in the closet. Once they get in, once they marry daddy or mommy, the child gets thrown in the closet and locked in and can't come out. Don't let that happen again. Don't let that happen again. You are the pure power, the force behind America. See, they need you, people, black people. They need you. And just like in that movie, The Widow, they came to you. They came to you. And so much money is being thrown around. When are we going to have our own domain? Why do you have new groups coming to the country and they are able to have their little piece of pie, but you don't have your pie because you're being seduced by the church and it is zapping your energy. Anyone who takes your money, they should be serving you. But instead, it's a slave system of control over you. They're extorting money from you through the church. And the same people who control the church may be the same people that control the businesses in your black community, like the hairdresser. Very few American, at least in New York, American black beauty salons. You'll see West Indian salons. West Indians, whether they're English speaking, Spanish speaking, or French speaking. I haven't seen any American ones. And it seems like that they are I'm wondering whether this is what's going on, because it's hinting about it in the movie, The Widow. She may have had honest intentions, but is being controlled by illicit people. And when the innocent resident of the neighborhood goes to a hairdresser, then the hairdresser gives the money to whom? Organized crime. Everything is organized crime. It's just a matter of what level of control. I mean, I believe now, seeing the movie and seeing what's going on around me, I get the impression that everything is under some type of hidden hand. There's a hidden hand that is taking money from you, overbilling you, and then denying that anything like that is being done. But you say, hey, look at this. Hey, where did this extra money come from? Why are you charging me this? Why are you not saying I owe over $1,000? What's going on, people? We're under control. And we're being deceived to think that we control our lives. Each of those wives from that movie that I saw, each of them on some level thought that their life was their life, but it wasn't. Their very stream of income was tied to organized crime, the bully system, the bully of control over you. people. The slavery is just in a different form. It's no chattel slavery because now, you have the chain that is invisible. You can even go to the other side of the planet. The leash pulls that far. And they're there controlling you. They are there trafficking you, trafficking the women. Yep. And I think, like with Jeffrey Epstein, was just a recent reminder of the extensiveness of the human trafficking / slave. Slave doesn't have to be black, and it doesn't have to be a male either. They're not pushing cotton. They're not digging in the gold mines. Okay? They're not doing the sugar cane, cutting sugar cane. See, that's an older industry. And those industries do exist still. Sugars, tobacco, minerals, cotton. They still exist. But it's an industry now that is worldwide, and it's happening simultaneously in its control. See, 500 years ago, 600 years ago, the new people in control weren't all over the planet yet, and they were staking out control over parts of Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the Americas, and the Pacific Islands. Now they have global control for your energy, in particular, black man and woman. And the only logic behind that is that we are the indigenous force here. So they never want you to have participation, full participation. All the other groups are more diluted genetically of the invader. But for whatever reason, that their hatred. And that hatred, again, in that movie, The Widow, shows this hatred to blacks. You might say, well, how is that? Okay, the main figure in the movie was a black American woman, very darker than usual that is portrayed in Hollywood. Very beautiful looking woman, in my opinion. And she is married to a Britain, a British person. At least I realize the guy is from Britain. He is a European. He's not American. And it's the first time really that they have a black woman with a white man in the movies. And a man of his stature, his veneer. They usually pair the black woman with an Italian, someone that looks very mafioso, illicit activity. But here she is works in the school system in the movie. And he, who knows, but they are making a lot of money. And they had a child together, and the child, it was discussed in the movie, the child, he looked like a teenager or early 20s, and he gets mowed down by the police while in a very luxurious red convertible, and he's on the phone, cell phone, talking to his father. They were arguing about something, something happened. I didn't understand what the drama was about, but he's a real arrogant kid. And he makes, I think, an illegal turn on the highway. And the cops pull him over. And the cop said, keep your hands where we can hold, see them. And I think something was falling or something. And he said, oh, and he went to just get what was falling or something. And the cops saw it, and shot him dead. So what's the significance of that, to show this in a movie? Well, on the surface, they're saying, hey, we want a union with you. We want to work with you, black woman. We'll give you the feeling of inclusion, represented by her living in the house, having a household with him, and a byproduct of that union, which is a biracial child, but is gunned down. And then in the end of the movie, the wife learns that the husband did not die in this tragedy, but it was a staged tragedy, and the husband was actually alive. And the husband used the wife, used the wife to do something that he couldn't finish, and then take the proceeds of that new activity that he wants the wife to do, and then he went to take it from the wife and kill her. So what does that say? You're in bed with him, but he's saying, I'm not really your friend, even in marriage. We'll give you the veneer of inclusion, but you will never be a part of our community. And when you do start to achieve power, we would take it from you and kill you. And the other women are just the different, there were other ethnic groups, as I said earlier, and each one represents another group. And so each one, after all is said and done in the movie, just go on their own way, their own communities, their own lives. The West Indian woman, who was one of the last women to be with the protagonist woman, the woman that was focused in the movie, and she got her cut and left and moved her family out of the neighborhood. The Hispanic woman moves back into the shop. And then the Polish/Slavic woman, her story is a little vague to me. But interested in the very end of the movie, the lead character woman and the Polish woman are in the same restaurant. And there's really no connection. It's like they're watching each other. Oh, I should say she is watching, the Polish woman from afar. The Polish woman is with another white woman. So you don't know really what happened, whether she got her cut, because the Polish woman got shot and the Hispanic woman stayed by her side and brought her to the hospital. So I'm not sure what cut, if any, she got. I don't know. But at the very end, there is a new kindling of the relationship. And she approaches the the Polish woman. And he gives a weird smile, like, hi, It's like, are we still friends? It was really weird. So I don't know what that is about. Is the Slavic nations / Russians going to be in some type of liaison with American blacks? I don't know. Because the mainstream Anglo-Saxon proved not to be a friend of the black. It's very bizarre. So, American politics. In New York City, you do have a very large Polish, Russian in particular group. How would they connect with American blacks in government today? So it seemed like all the other groups, like in that movie, got their little piece of what's expected of them to get in this deal. But about the black community, that's a question. This election that's coming up, you're going to have people coming into your communities. You have people who are racing and racing to be on top. But they require you to win this deck, to win this hand. You really have to start playing it smart this time. They will be coming to you and pandering you. Don't give them the satisfaction unless all terms are agreed upon. But even at that, like in the movie The Widow, the woman's own husband tried to kill her, backstabbed her. So don't be like that widow and have your husband, your bedfellow, destroy you. You are actually a very intelligent woman. You're an intelligent man. Now, I say about the woman, because the woman is really a symbol of a community, because the woman is the one that raises the children, right? The culture, the language, the food. She represents family. We have to start working together. We have to work together. See, that woman was not tied to a black man, and she even said in the movie, who would ever thought I would have married a white man? She needed to be hooked up with her own people. She wasn't confident enough in herself to make it work. She has all the power all along. She always had it. She even walked around with a cute little white dog. That symbolizes the white man in the movie, in my opinion. And she needed this little dog. Where she went, she carried the dog with her. That little dog. It was a cute little dog. But all along, she could have done it all by herself and with people of her community, such as the other women. Even though on the surface, all the women represented their own nationalities. But it's sisterhood. But also there is a brotherhood. The brotherhood of her own people. See, they didn't want to be that obvious. And the brothers in the movie had their own thing going. It never included the woman. Both groups were a force. The black males were a powerful force, and the black woman was a powerful force. But they never, and they failed to really come together. There was a brief meeting, and they did threaten the woman to destroy her if she doesn't do what they asked her to do. They said that she owed, well, her husband owed. You can't go to your own people and say, you owe me. And that's what was missing in that movie. She doesn't owe him a damn thing. Yes, on the surface, she does owe him because her husband stole from him. But the black man and the black woman, you need to work together. So whatever what you get, it stays in your community. But in the movie, the white husband actually tried to steal what she worked for legitimately. Well, actually, it wasn't legitimate, but it was a crime she committed with the other ladies. But still, figuratively speaking, she was brained behind it, and she facilitated that happening. But the black man should have been there with her to work together. See, you have to work together. You can't say, okay, we're going to be feminists, we're going to be women and helping other women, and have all these different nationalities divide your pie from you. And then there's a black man with his own thing going, and thinking that the black woman is an enemy of his. You need to come together. And I think that's the real essence of the movie, The Widow. Black men and black women need to come together, and don't be deceived by the feminist movement to make you think you're equal. At the end of that movie, each one of those ethnic groups separated from that black woman in their own affairs. But she walked away and she had no one with her. No real community, because again, the black men see her as an enemy, and I think some of them died in the movie. So she's again a double widow, because now she lost her community. And in the end, she approaches some guy that's a black fella actually, and says, I want to donate this money, start a library. I think he might have been the one that won the political office that was going on. But behind the scenes, she's saying education. See, when you talk about a library, you talk about information and education. She may not have won the war, but the battle she won, and she had acquired the money. But she needs to win the war. And so that's where education comes in. So again, at the end, the black man and black woman did come together, and it's agreed that they both need, so to speak, education. They need to come together as one, of one mind, and to mature. This is what should be done in American politics amongst black communities. We're all divided in different pieces and being deceived by various groups. Feminism, thinking all women are the same and equal, but denying your whole black community of the man and the woman. You need to come together. Don't be deceived by the women's movement or the He-Man Club movement. We need to come together as one and stop giving and selling our votes away. This election is extremely, extremely serious. And whoever who wins the 2020 election is going to be in control of a vastity of power that's even going to include out of space. Thus, Trump's upcoming the Space Force and the Space Force agenda. It is a race in space. You have the different factions, and Bloomberg is another faction in all this, and a big one. I'm thinking that as for the symbolism for Bloomberg, I think it's the Zionist connection, Zionist control, and a Zionist control over the Space Force. I don't want that to happen. So that is what's on my mind now. And again, I'm not someone who understands all this game of monopoly and control, but I see it and I smell it, and I see it's raising its ugly, ugly head. Be aware, people. Be aware that there's politics and hidden snakes that are really controlling you and enslaving you. Can't we run ourselves, our own community? Why are our resources and our energy exploited and removed from our own power? Let's take back our power. Take back our power of control so we can control ourselves. Take care, guys. Bye-bye.